look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network on Tumblr, SoundCloud, and of course, iHeartRadio. We are the only 24-hour day, 7-day a week, all cannabis, all the time broadcasting network on iHeartRadio. In fact, on the internet, there is no other popsicle stand in the desert right now quite like us. So if you're thirsty and looking for a nice treat, this is the place to be. And, of course, Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting, like a good joint, is best when shared with friends. It is Tuesday. On Tuesday, we like to put a spotlight on the amazing, hardworking activists up in Canada. And my joint host today, and don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the Big Joint broadcast, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and of course twist up a joint to jointly smoke out and take Time for Hemp. Kelly, how you doing this groovy day in paradise?
Every day is a great day, Casper. How you doing today?
I'm having some joint problems right now. I'm trying to deal with some cracked joints here and some sprained joints there, but I figure when all's taken care of, all my joints will be just fine by the end of the day. We've got a joint friend on the Big Joint broadcast. I know you know this individual. You guys are buddies from way back, and I'll let you introduce Marko.
Hey, Marko, how you doing? This is Kelly, KDK. Marko from the Big TO. What's going on out there?
Not too shabby, my friend. Great to hear your voice again. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah,
fine. Now, Marko,
we're doing well. Life is good out here in Alberta.
Marko, how do you pronounce
our new provincial regime? We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm assuming you guys heard the news out there. Alberta, after 44 years of provincial conservative rule, tyranny is now officially NDP. So I don't know. Did it get much of a reaction out your way?
Oh yeah, certainly. There was a lot of celebration for some of the friends that I know. They're NDPers. And even some Liberals were rejoicing, understanding that the Conservatives are kind of starting to lose their power a little bit all across the board. So it's good to see.
Without question, it sends a message. I know they just brushed it off quite easily and quickly when they asked the federal Conservatives how they felt about the big upturn in Alberta, and they just all emphatically stated that it wouldn't be affecting the federal thing, but you got to know that they're in the back rooms huddling down and saying, "Hey, man, that's our bread and butter, our stranglehold, Alberta, a conservative country," and it's not anymore. And it sends a clear message, I believe, to these guys. Got to start cleaning things up a little bit more.
Well, I need to jump in for just a minute. Ivan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Sorry?
How do you pronounce your last name?
Ivanicevic.
See, I never would have gotten that. I would have gotten Ivan Ice. What? I didn't mean to interrupt, but our audience didn't know your last name. I wanted to make sure they did. Go ahead with your conversation.
I conveniently slipped by that part.
All right, go on with the conversation. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No worries. It's a tough one for sure. So, yeah, the political landscape is changing. Could Alberta vote Liberal in the federal election? Pretty tough to say. I mean, I think they're tired of the Conservatives, not only provincially, obviously, but I think federally as well. But I think typically being so conservative, I don't think they could switch that hardcore and go Liberal. They'll probably get a little more NDP action than Liberal. But as we all know, you guys out there in the Great East, in Quebec and Ontario, you guys will have decided the election before we're finished voting here due to the population and the amount of seats you have out there. So we can only hope that Liberals are strong.
Yeah, and I think that that certainly with Justin Trudeau at the helm, it's going to make a huge difference all across the board for a lot of the Liberal candidates. And really, at the end of the day, I think for Liberals and NDPers as well, I think, even if one of our two parties has a minority government over the Conservatives, we're both going to be happier than we are right now, sitting in the position that we both are.
Oh, without question.
Considering the Conservatives have a majority, and no matter what the Liberals and NDP say or try to do, it really doesn't make a difference in the end.
No.
Right? So certainly the landscape is going to change later on this year. And, of course, being a Liberal, I'm very hopeful that Justin and the Liberal Party can pull out a majority. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough feat even to get a minority for the NDP or for the Liberals. But again, I'm maintaining my hopefulness and Justin's determination to win it is there. So we're hoping for the best.
Well, I think he brings brings the Trudeau name to the table, which the vast majority of Canadians can identify with. Obviously, his father was a previous prime minister and quite liberal, and did indulge in the wonderful cannabis on occasion, as well as both the sons and even their mother.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. So they're cannabis friendly. They're a cannabis friendly family, and the Conservatives are trying to downplay it as a non-issue for the election, but I think it's a big issue. And just it being in the little bit more in the limelight than in certainly in elections past, just shows that there are a lot more passionate people about legalizing cannabis and moving forward with the medical program and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I see, and our brothers to the south, of course, they're way ahead of us in that game now. I think what you're going to see is more and more states looking at what has happened in the wonderful states of Colorado and Washington, and when the figures come in, Colorado is going to be over the top. Not only are they pulling in a windfall in taxes and regulating cannabis, but they're also pulling in a windfall on the savings on the other end, on the legal end of things, with lawyers and judges and police officers and jail time and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of a double-edged thing. So not only are they making more money or bringing in more taxes than they were before with a new revenue stream, but they've also eliminated something that's been pulling money out of that revenue stream. So they're going to gain in both ends. Not only that, if you look in Denver, of course, trade shows like the Champs Trade Show and this new cannabis tourism and all kinds of other subsidiary things that are direct benefits from the legalization of cannabis in that state. So it's like a third whammy with hotels and taxis and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. It's at the end of the year if you tally it all up, it's going to be astronomical for them, and the other states are going to be jealous, and they're going to start. Certainly, the more liberal ones are going to move on the bandwagon. And that bodes well for us in Canada, because obviously with Harper we were headed in the wrong direction, and now hopefully we see the right direction in Trudeau, and it happens, and we just become legal coast to coast, it should have been since 1972 when they come out with the first government study on that basically they concluded that it was more harm to keep it legal than it was to legalize it. So it's a long time in coming, but I see it around the corner. I'm excited for the fall election. Yeah, well, that Ledane, it's the Ledane Commission report from '72, and that was very, very important. For the activists back then, if you will, right? And even for us, it's added. It's added ammunition, if you will, for our arguments.
to say that, well, here we are sitting with, a Senate report from 1972 that's suggesting legalization, right? And the funny thing with Harper is that, in the last several months, we've seen reports and heard comments about decriminalization again from the Conservative Party, right? So they realize and they know that marijuana is a big issue when it comes to voters, and at the same time, they're trying to capitalize on those voters, right? And me, as a politician, if you will, whenever I've been involved in political party politics, it's all about strategy. And the Conservatives are coming up with what they think is going to be a good strategy by starting to talk about decriminalization. At the end of the day, they're not going to move on it, but they want to try to sway some voters that way. And the difficulty that I have with this whole decriminalization term is that at the end of the day, the proposed decriminalization bill that was there before, it actually, wasn't fully decriminalized, if you will. It just eliminated certain elements, but at the same time, if you got a ticket and you didn't pay that ticket, what happens?
Right. Absolutely.
You have to go to court, and it becomes a criminal issue. So, any of these, talks about decriminalization are really, if you will, blowing smoke. It's a joke.
I like that. Yes, of course, they were moving towards, well, as you know, mandatory minimums, 6 plants, 6 months in jail, privatizing prisons, et cetera, et cetera. They were headed that direction, and to move from that direction to as little as decriminalization, like you say, shows that they realize the Canadian public is I believe ready for legalization. And I fully believe if we put it up to a vote and we did it democratically and everybody was allowed to actually pull a vote on that particular issue, I think we'd get legalization.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why the referendum question has been avoided. It's because, at the end of the day, there's the fear from government, if you will, that the results wouldn't come in the way they want them to, right? And the really sad thing is that, previous to the Conservative government, we were leading the way in North America, right? But as soon as the Conservative government came in, everything switched, right? The U.S. is leading the way, and that's an understatement, in terms of the legalization and in terms of the medical marijuana program, because the medical marijuana, program that we have up north here is a broken record that the Conservatives don't care to fix.
Without question. They've never shown an interest in it at all, really. They've been trying to slough it off forever. And that continues.
And every time there's a court decision that comes out where they say make 2 steps, the Conservatives will make a step or 2 backwards. And they don't care about the repercussions because they'll continue to rule the way that they do. Mm-hmm. And it's sad.
Well, as long as they have power, and which they do, they will continue to rule in a way they deem necessary for certain. And, Harper has defiantly come out and said very much in the beginning of his career that there would never be legalization on his watch. So we got to get him off his watch.
Yeah. But the funny thing is back in his early days, as a PC, if you will, a progressive conservative, mm-hmm. He was talking about decriminalization and how he supported decriminalization. Mm-hmm. And that was before the merger of the, let's call them the super conservatives now, right?
Yeah.
And it's just funny how his mindset would change on that, and how certainly the power has gotten to his head over the years.
Well, I'm sure in the back rooms they let him know he had to toughen his stance on cannabis if they were to if he had any interest in becoming the leader of the party. That's for sure. Has been their agenda, supposedly tough on crime, but I didn't find their stuff too much, tough on crime. Tough on crime would be actually sentencing some severe people to some severe sentences, gun offenses and stuff like that, where really not much happens, in all honesty. And it's not much as a deterrent, as much as growing 6 cannabis plants will get you 6 months in jail. That's more a deterrent to 80% of Canadians than any of the get tough laws they passed on any of the harsher stuff.
They always went on the premise that, this is to get the big guys. And really, at the end of the day, the amount of charges that were laid or have been laid are generally against, individuals who are growing for personal use or growing for medical use personally as well. And, and again, the smaller guys, they don't really get the big guys, right? They go after the smaller ones because they're easier fish to fry.
Without question. But you know what? I'm just super, super crazy hopeful. We got an election coming up very, very soon. The ads are out there, of course. And Mr. Trudeau, with his nice hair, hopefully will capture the heart of Canadians and come away with a majority government so that they can do a few of the things they promised to do.
Yeah, certainly.
What's the federal landscape like in Ontario right now with you guys have mostly conservative seats? I mean, obviously you're going to have a mixture there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some definite changes. In the last election, there was an increase, and and we're going to see it again. I think more so because there's the level of talent that these candidates have and the resume that they have in terms of a lot of the candidates that are going forward for the Liberals in the federal election. It's amazing to see some of the people that are out there, and to understand the way that the Conservatives have been over the years. It's going to be very easy for the voters to pick the Liberals over the Conservatives. So the Conservatives are definitely going to be losing seats out here, and it's going to be great to see.
And well, I hope Alberta can help out a little bit. I find it unlikely, just the psyche in general in conservative hardcore country is, if they're going to move their vote from the Conservatives, it will more than likely be to the NDP. No doubt some, of course, will go Liberal, but I don't think enough to elect many, if any, seats in Alberta on a federal basis. But that's okay. We just need you guys to do it for us out there.
Well, the way that I see it is anywhere that the Liberals can pick up seats where they haven't had one previously or currently, then I think it's going to be a great thing either way. So, there's going to be certain seats that the NDP picks up, but that's fine because that's a seat away from the Conservatives as well, right? And that's why I say that, I think in theory that we're going to be looking at a minority government. We've just got to figure out which party it's going to be, because at the end of the day, it's all about, who's going to have the most seats, and we won't know until Election Day. And, even the polls show that the shifting from one to the other party. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Well, at least it's going to be somewhat of a battle anyhow, and hopefully the people speak, and hopefully a few more get out to vote than normal, and we get a little truer political landscape. But hey, this is all good.
Yeah.
We also wanted to touch a little bit on what you've been doing out in Oshawa, some of the good things you and your friends have been accomplishing. Yeah.
Well, so out in Oshawa, I was involved with the Oshawa Accessibility Advisory Committee, and basically what that committee did is assisted the city regarding accessibility issues. So I had been on that committee for 3 years, and during that time, myself and Ben Fudge, who's been on the show before, I believe, were discussing the issue of medical marijuana, and thankfully we had gotten to a point where where it became a part of the accessibility plan for the city of Oshawa. So, basically what that means is that in terms of the city of Oshawa and as it relates to accessibility issues, medical marijuana will be included in the city's accessibility plan for up until for another 2 years, I believe. And then at the same time, if the committee decides that they still want to move forward with the issue, it can remain on the accessibility plan, right? Mm-hmm. So, and through that, we created Canada's first medical marijuana working group through an accessibility advisory committee. And so basically the mandate of the advisory committee is to advise council of any changes as it relates to the medical marijuana program. And then basically with council, we can work with them to assist the city with coming up with, bylaws and licenses and things of that nature related to medical marijuana. So, for instance, in Canada, we have medical marijuana production facilities that are set up through companies that register through Health Canada. And if they want to go and produce in a certain city or town, they have to basically apply. So now the city of Oshawa is looking at how they're going to assist with the zoning for that type of production facility, if you will, right? So we assist with that kind of end of the process. Through the committee, we've sat down with police and talked to police about issues concerning medical marijuana users and things of that nature. So there's a lot of really fun and interesting things that we've been able to do and accomplish in that time. Just earlier this year, myself and Ben made a presentation which was considered an education and training session for City Council. And in that, we were actually able to sway some mindsets, if you will, on the view of medical marijuana. And we were able to educate them, and they were able to learn things about medical marijuana and its benefits. So again, there's a lot of fun and interesting things that we can do, and thankfully we've been able to accomplish a lot through the committee and through the work.
Any part of that accessibility going towards, say, making or allowing vapor lounges or dispensaries or any of that kind of thing, making access to the actual product a little bit easier in Oshawa than anywhere else in the country?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. In terms of the vapor lounges, that's certainly an issue that we've talked about. The unfortunate part is that due to let's say the restrictions of how the Accessibility Advisory Committee and our working group works, at the end of the day, the ultimate decision, if you will come down to council. Right, so all we can really do is advise them of changes and things like that, maybe make suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's of council's will what they're going to do, and certainly in some instances, it's been very difficult to get things accomplished. But at the same time, considering that we've been at this for about 4 or 5 years with council, they've really started to understand. The difference between recreational use and medicinal use. So I think that was a big
hurdle,
stumbling block for them,
right,
to be able to understand that there is a difference. So I think that again, understanding that they've been able to kind of change their mindsets and their views on it, it's made it a little bit easier with trying to discuss and push the issue forward.
Well, and also keeping, if you've been at it for 4 or 5 years, it keeps it there, and City Council gets to hear about it, and other people associated with it, and news, and all that kind of stuff. And it just having it there is a big plus, I'm sure. And you're helping to move things forward in Oshawa. That's just incredible. I like to hear it. Kudos to you and Ben, and keep up the good work out there.
Well, it's been an amazing team effort because, even for us going into the advisory committee, Ben and I went in at the same time. He's still a part of it. of the advisory committee. And, going into it, it was, a learning curve for a lot of the individuals on the Accessibility Advisory Committee. It took a little bit of time for them to understand the link between medical marijuana and accessibility. And so we wouldn't have been able to get any work accomplished if it wasn't for the whole team effort. And it's the same thing with the staff of the city of Oshawa that have been involved with the process with us. They've been amazing, and they totally support the issue as it relates to accessibility. So it's amazing.
Good stuff. Like to hear it all.
Well, one thing we're going to hear right now is a commercial break. And I would encourage people to go to our website and check out the banners that our sponsors have up there. Let them know that you heard about them here on the big broadcast. Then we're going to listen to a song about how groovy marijuana is, and then come back and pick up where we left off here at Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
Let's put up the teddy bears and get out the whips
was Ashley Monroe, Weed Instead of Roses. I found that on YouTube, thought it was just a groovy little tune, and it should become part of our repertoire here on Time for Hemp. We are celebrating the hardworking people in Canada who are dedicated to ending prohibition and helping people who need their medications not be treated like criminals. You know, when you go to apply for a job or take on a job, or even if you get pulled over in the car, you don't have to tell a police officer that you're a diabetic and you're on insulin, or you don't have to tell a future employer that you have high blood pressure problems and you're taking high blood pressure pills, because your medical diagnosis and the way you take care of any medical problems you have is between you and your doctor, as it should be. But good golly, Miss Molly, if you've got THC in your system, you need to get a billboard outside your front door. It's at least 20 feet tall and 50 feet wide that says, "I am a medical marijuana user. Deal with it." Apparently, you have to tell the whole damn world about it, or they're going to haul you off to court, take your license away, throw you in jail, and not hire you. And that's just for starters. It doesn't make any sense to me. Does that make any sense to you, Kelly?
Not at all. Are you kidding me?
And
but it's so true.
I know you like to help the medical marijuana community. You and your team do something very wonderful there. I'll give you a chance to share that with our audience, and then we'll pick up where we left off here on the Big Joint Broadcast at Time for Hemp.
You bet. For the last several years now, we've had the honor of being able to give away a quality vaporizer to a medical patient anywhere in the world. Yes, we can ship it to you wherever you may be. So wherever you're tuning in from around the world, if you are a medical patient and use cannabis to treat your ailment, and what we're specifically looking for are people that basically cannot afford a quality vaporizer due to the fact they're on assisted income, a disability pension, or no income at all. Obviously, these people, a lot of the medical patients that rely on cannabis for relief, simply cannot afford a quality vaporizer due to their financial situation. I know of many, and certainly if you're listening, please pay attention to the email address I'm going to give you. And for those of you that could afford one, you probably know someone, if you're involved anywhere in the medical cannabis community, someone who could benefit from a totally free vaporizer landing on their door. Yes, it's free, including the shipping. We pay to get it there. And it's super simple. Not only do you just have to be a medical cannabis patient and use cannabis as a part of your regime, all you have to do is send an email to Kelly, Kelly, at kdkwholesale.ca. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Picture is nice, of course, too. We like to know who we're dealing with, and certainly contact information so we can get a hold of you. So again, it's super simple. Just Kelly, Kelly, at kdkwholesale.ca. We want to hear from each and every one of you.
And on behalf of the movement, Kelly, thank you so much. That is a very gracious thing that you and your team do, and you guys have always acted in love and are truly an inspiration for many activists on both sides of the border and around the world. Now, you guys are having an enormous conversation about all the important things going on there in Canada. And I'll let you get back to your joint chat here at Time for Hemp.
Excuse me, I'm just finishing up a vape over there over the break. One of the things I wanted to talk with Marko about, because he's very knowledgeable and up to date on what's going on with the actual medical program that we do have. Can you fill us in? I know that we're anxiously awaiting a court decision here.
Yeah. Well, currently we have two kind of functioning medical marijuana programs going on at the same time. Basically, the old program, which was the MMAR, the Marijuana Medical Access Regulations, were the program that was kind of grandfathered, if you will, from the old program. And now, as of a couple of years ago, they came out with the marijuana for medical purposes regulations. And the reason why they came out with that was because there was a lot of issues from coming from police, coming from government, coming from fire officials, and other people as well, related to the personal production facilities for individuals that had the right to grow medical marijuana for themselves. There was a lot of issues, that were brought to the table, so the government and Health Canada decided that they were going to change the program. And so effectively what they did is they attempted to move the ability for people to grow for themselves away from the individual and put it into the hands of corporations, if you will, companies that would apply for the right to be able to grow and sell to the medical marijuana patients. So when that happened, obviously there was uproar from the medical marijuana community, and so there was a court case that was put forward that would basically challenge that ability for them to take away the right for personal production. And so that's currently sitting in the courts, and that kind of stalled the elimination, if you will, of the MMAR because of this court injunction that still stays intact until the decision is made in this court case. And this court case is expected to, I believe, finish by the end of the year. Are you sure? Do you know, Kelly?
As far as I know, I thought we were actually waiting on a decision. I thought that final arguments had already been made, and we were waiting on a decision. But I obviously could be ahead of myself.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the timeline kind of shifted over the last several months. Because certainly last year, a lot of us expected that it would be finished by now and we would have a decision. But I think that the timeline changed, and we're looking, I think, the latter end of the year. I'm not sure specifically. Obviously, nobody is because they will just come up with a decision whenever they please. But let's hope that it is going to be a positive decision and allows for the MMAR to at least stay intact, which would allow for individuals to continue to grow for themselves.
Well, I think it's important, as I've always said. I think it's a real big plus emotionally for patients who are growing their own medicine. It's must give them, must feel very proud and amazing that you can grow it and help to heal yourself or treat your ailment or your pain or whatever the case may be. Just to be able to do that mentally is a big plus, and I think that part of it is always missed. Not just the benefit of the cost wise, that kind of thing, being able to quickly decide if you want to change a strain or try something new or different. Maybe the strain you're using has become less effective, or you've heard from somewhere else while you were down at the vapor lounge or whatever that so-and-so was using this particular strain and they had the same ailment as you and how much better it worked and, so on and so forth. So the information that's created by allowing patients to grow for themselves as well is super beneficial. So there's a lot of pluses that come out of people being able to grow their own medicine.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the issue related to the cost, because the cost, for you to produce it yourself is minuscule overall when you compare it to the cost of some of these companies. Because some companies, I'm sure you're aware of it, are charging, $20 upwards to $30 a gram. And it's just ludicrous. But, at the same time, of course, there are other companies that are providing at a, semi-respectable price. But at the same time, still looking at, $5 or $6 a gram is still, high in comparison to, what the cost to actually produce it is for that individual.
For certain. Now, a lot of these companies that are charging fairly high rates, obviously in order to meet government regulations to become a licensed producer, has to be an awful lot of money invested up front in terms of having a proper facility, proper security, the requirements to become a licensed producer make it so that it's very expensive to get involved. And let's face it, if you're investing money up front in this kind of stuff, obviously whatever you're investing your money in, you'd like a return on your investment. And these guys literally are having to invest millions of dollars to be able to produce cannabis to the satisfaction of any rules and regulations that they have to abide by. So their costs are pretty high. And I understand sort of why they need to charge a little bit more than the average Joe, because their price to produce, or their cost to produce, is higher naturally because of the arduous restrictions and regulations put on them in order to be able to.
Yeah, and to consider that there have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different companies that have been formed to be able to apply for these licenses, and to consider that there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, there's not even 20 companies that have been approved as a licensed producer, right? And then we're looking at about 7 for cultivation only, right? And so to understand that, that there's this stall in the process created by Health Canada and created by the Conservatives, it's really sad to see how the patients are negatively affected, and also how these companies are negatively affected by, the red tape that they've created, right? At the end of the day, this medical marijuana is legal because it has a benefit for individuals, and these people are not always getting the ability to have the best access, and it's really difficult for those individuals when Health Canada creates this red tape, whether it's through the MMAR program or whether it's through this MMPR program. It's just really sad to see how they react to the court decisions and to the patients.
Well, I know that always, usually the loser is the patient, because they're not getting what they need. The program is, flawed at best, of course, but they're struggling along with it, and it is effective to some extent because patients are being allowed to consume cannabis as a medicine. So that's always a huge plus, and I think the program will be broke for a long time because let's face it, the current government in power really has no interest in having the program at all. Health Canada is sort of stuck in between trying to figure out what to do, and all it is since nobody's doing anything, they're forcing the courts to make the decisions for them. And what's that doing? Just taking more time again, of course, as it just lags on and lags on and lags on. I don't know, the government maybe likes to think that we'll just give up or it'll just go away eventually, but the thing is, it's not. And the sooner they address it and move forward with it, the better off everybody's going to be, without question. I'm disappointed to hear. I'm sort of sitting, waiting, assuming that a decision is going to be down fairly quickly, and now you're suggesting it may not be more towards the end of the year. So are you thinking after the federal election?
Who knows?
Yeah.
And who really knows?
It's a guess at
as
best.
Far as I know, Jason Wilcox had put out something from Conroy a little while ago, and it was just basically saying that they're in that waiting mode.
Well, onward and upward is all we can do, and I know that you're doing your part out there, and we're trying to do our part out here. It's a little more difficult, of course. We're not. It's not near as friendly out here as it is in your neck of the woods. But again, major inroads here. The Conservatives are out provincially. There's a new face on the block, and provided they do all right, they'll probably be back in power again next time around. But they have a short window. They're not going to have a lot to work with, obviously, because oil prices are low. And, the Conservatives have had 44 years to piss away our oil revenues. Excuse my my term there, but it's true. One of my most favorite, or definitely my most favorite bumper sticker that I've ever seen in my time on Earth, being, of course, it's Alberta related, but the bumper sticker said, "Oh Lord, please let there be another oil boom, and I promise not to piss it away this time." And, with the oil revenues way down, that's where the Conservative government has just had rifled through so much funding over the last 44 years of oil revenues. I mean, we should be in a much crazier position than we are now. So the NDPs are going to have it tough because revenues are going to be down hugely, so they're not going to have the money to throw around like the Conservatives did, and certainly the Conservatives never hung on to any of it. So, it's going to be a tough time, but we'll see what happens and how they deal with it. And if Albertans realize that, this is what they were handed when they were elected. I know any political party that took over a situation that Alberta's in right now financially would definitely have a tough time. So.
Yeah.
Hard work, that's all it's going to take, being smart and intelligent. Well, it's a new government. We'll see what happens.
Have they ever touched on the medical marijuana issue?
In a provincially? No, not at all. It's never really been brought up as any kind of issue in a provincial way. But I think that it's a new day in Alberta, and I think that they're approachable. And I'm sure if we went to them, they would be open to hear what we had to say, and I think that's a big plus.
Well, all right, gentlemen.
Can we go? You finished with the program? You talked about everything you'd like to about the current and past program and what's going on?
Pretty much. We can always talk about anything else.
Well, we are down to the last.
There's a lot of different issues that we could talk about related to medical marijuana.
We are down to the last 4 minutes. This would be a groovy time for you to start giving shout-outs to your favorite URLs and organizations.
Go ahead, Marko.
Say that again?
You want to give
a shout out? Sorry?
Give a shout-out to your an organization or URL, somebody out there you'd like to put a spotlight on?
Oh, well, you could always. I always want to promote the Toronto Hemp Company on Yonge Street. I would say Toronto Compassion Center, a medical marijuana organization. Then there's the Toronto Vapor Lounge, of course, Vapor Central being the main one in Toronto, which is right beside the Toronto Hemp Company. Beautiful, beautiful venue. I know that you've been there many times, Kelly. What do you think about the venue?
I'd love it. I want you guys to export one out to my part of the country.
Yeah, they always have amazing comedy shows going on all the time there, amazing events, very supportive of the medical marijuana community, and have been for many years. There's Sacred Seeds that's also attached with the whole Youngster Dam family, if you will. And I'll give a shout out to my own company, Highest Level Entertainment. I do event coordination, comedy events, music as well, and of course the name is played off of pot. It's Highest Level, of course.
No mild reference there.
Yeah, just mild.
And of course, for me, I just want to let everybody know my email address again for those of you that are patients and could use a quality free vaporizer, or those of you that are listening, certainly pass the information on to anybody you may know. Super simple. Just send me an email, Kelly, Kelly, at kdkwholesale.ca. Sooner the better. We love to hear from you, and don't worry, make sure you have contact information in there, and we keep your name until you get drawn.
And I want to remind people that we're no longer just a 1-hour broadcast, but we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a team of people who are dedicated to ending Prohibition. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Tumblr, SoundCloud, soon on iTunes. We got a Google Plus Android device that you can download into all your handhelds and share us with your friends and keep up to date. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no...
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
It turns out that police officials are increasingly ignoring violent crimes, and they are using all of their resources to arrest and prosecute people who have possession of marijuana. And there are significant incentives to do so. All right, so the Huffington Post actually did a really great report on this, and they lay out all of the different ways that police departments, local police departments, profit from arresting and prosecuting people who have possession of marijuana. So the first thing is that they get federal anti-drug grants, okay? And the way a police department is able to get those grants is if they can show that they have made a significant amount of arrests for marijuana and drug possession. All right, and this is a competitive thing. It's not like all police departments get it. You get this grant if you can show that you have arrested enough people.
All right, first of all, instantly, look at the incentive structure that they give you,
right?
Like, right or wrong, it's a real problem in your local community. It's not a problem in your local community. Who cares? You only get the money is if you do our bidding, which is to arrest as many people for smoking marijuana and selling marijuana, et cetera, as possible. So, gee, I wonder why we got all these people locked up in jail, because they're literally getting paid to lock them up, and as much as possible. And then second of all, if you incentivize them to do that, obviously they're going to do that instead of other things.
Of course. Look, they're going to use all of their time and resources to arrest people when they know that arresting those individuals is going to mean that they're going to bring in money for doing so. So here's another example. When they suspect that someone might have possession of drugs, they can do something known as asset forfeiture. Okay, so for example, police can legally seize property from people merely suspected of drug crimes, and they can basically get a hold of the cash, and that cash goes back to the police department. It doesn't go back to the person who's arrested. When it comes to non-cash property, it's auctioned off, and that money goes back to the police department.
So, look, if you got raped or you got seriously assaulted and you lost an eye, etc., there's no profit in it for the cops. I mean, hopefully they'll get to it, right? But if you had a little bit of marijuana or cocaine or whatever in your Mercedes, hey, they got a Mercedes and they get money from the federal government. Wow, I wonder which one they're going to put more effort into.
Right, exactly. Look, there was a case of a woman in Chicago who was literally beaten to the point where she suffered a concussion. She woke up the following morning and she went to the police. The police didn't care, so she went and did her own investigation to find out who the attackers were. Then she went to the police and said, look, here are the attackers, the names of these people, where they live, please arrest them, arrest them. Finally, after bugging them, the Chicago police decided, all right, fine, we'll arrest these guys, but stop bitching about it.
Yeah, stop complaining that you were beaten unconscious. Look, it didn't involve drugs, why would we care? Right, exactly. In fact, what she should have done instead of all that is, they beat me near death, plus I saw them smoking a joint. Then the cops would be like, okay, we jump in it.
Exactly. Got to get those federal anti-drug grants. All right, and then the last way that these police departments make money is that drug dealers are forced to reimburse the police departments for the resources that they spent to arrest and prosecute. Mm-hmm. And that's only with drug-related crimes.
You're right. So again, if somebody came into your house, they attacked your kids, they robbed you of your precious possessions, well, since they don't have to pay it back to the cops, we'll get to it when we get to it, right? But you got a little bit of marijuana, let's make some money. You think this doesn't pervert how people, how those police departments react to these different crimes? You're crazy if you don't think that. Of course they respond to financial incentives.
And this is an increasing issue because if you look at the statistics, if you look at 1981 to 1995, there were a total of 33,775 marijuana arrests. However, between 1996 to 2010, there were more than 500,000 marijuana arrests. 500,000.
Gee, I wonder if it had an effect. I can't quite tell.